What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us on the first episode of the Take Me On Tour podcast. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Way too long.
Yeah, talk
Year,
about years?
years. This
Yeah,
literally predates every other touring related podcast. This predates them all, but it's coming way after the fact.
right, very true. I'm joined by Logan Crossland, who I've known for many years now from working together in the music industry, which we will get into momentarily. But Logan, what's going on with you, man?
Just man, trying to pinch myself. I can't believe we're finally doing this.
Yeah, I know. It's about time, man. Things have been pretty slow in the touring world, so I figured we'd get some episodes done now before things get busy again. But it does seem slower than previous years for some reason. I would say generally things are pretty slow around this time, but I've been seeing a lot of people post on social media looking for work. It seems like just a little bit more than usual. Like, I mean, even people who are working for Motley Crue are looking for work out there, which is kind of surprising.
Well, yeah, especially because that band in particular. I mean, they've had a ton of shows pop up, but they're all just one offs. You know, there's not really any full tours. Yeah, I would agree. It seems like it's kind of ramping up a little bit. I see a lot more announcements, but those first few weeks felt uh, irregularly slow.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, it is expected for winter to be slow. It always is. You know, the holidays, plus, you know, everything shuts down for basically what feels like 2 months. I mean, but yeah, I've just been seeing, even today, right before we recorded this, there was still people posting, you know, if anyone's looking for a tech or backline tech or whatever. And it's like, it just seems like a very large amount of people are looking for work. So I don't know if something's changed or if it's just slow for everybody. Maybe things are slowing down after COVID. I mean, I think those first couple of years coming out were really, really strong, and maybe people's work is starting to thin out.
Yeah, I mean, last year, especially last fall of 2023, I mean, my God, it was so oversaturated. I mean, it's crazy, and it feels like it's probably going to continue into the new year, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But it's tough because people don't have money to be buying tickets for a concert every day, and now more than ever, I mean, there's 20 different shows in every city every night.
Yeah, you got to be rich to go to concerts these days, man. You can't even.
Good.
Yeah, it got to cost you like $300 just to see a show. I mean, at any kind of arena level.
Even club shows are up to 25, 30, $35, and it's just like it's a lot to pay to go to a bar.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember shows used to be. I would say $40 was about the max, maybe 45 to see somebody like Rob Zombie or Pantera, maybe like 2004. And now that'll, like, you're right, that's more like a club level. But yeah, $45 is probably the max, unless you were trying to go see Kiss or something. It was roughly $90 maybe. But
Man, for
yeah,
like the lawn seats at a shed now.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say that being from Texas, you know, one of the reasons you don't want to really tour it in the winter is just because of the weather alone. But being from Texas, I never really quite understood the winter weather. As you may know, on that Graveyard tour, I
Yeah.
I show up in Cleveland. I think we landed in Cleveland, and I was supposed to meet you there. And I show up and I land. I take off from Texas, and it's probably, I don't know if I had to guess, 70 degrees or something, and I'm wearing shorts, and then I I land in Cleveland, and it's like, I don't know, 30 some degrees, and I look like I'm the only idiot wearing shorts in the whole airport.
I think we went to get sushi that night, the night you got into town, and I remember after I dropped you back off at the hotel, um, dude. I mean, I almost excuse me, I almost died.
I forgot
I had to
about that.
there was a blizzard that came in. It was like all good. We're hanging out. It's cold, but it's clear. Then I drop you off, and 20 minutes later, I'm like pulling over on the highway, waiting for a salt truck to go past, just so I can get behind them and stay in their tracks. It
Yeah,
took me like 2 hours to get home, and it's like a 45-minute drive.
I forgot about that, but I do remember whenever I got off the plane and I was telling you, and you were like, I don't know, man, there's supposed to be some bad weather, but you made the trip after all, and yeah, we went and had that. I don't know, what was it, like a Chinese or hibachi place or whatever, but it was all you can eat, something like that.
Yeah, it was like a sushi buffet, and I think it was on Valentine's Day. So I don't know, Valentine's Day getting sushi.
I think you're right, and I think that might have been one of the first places I've ever been like that. And you were like, make sure you eat everything. Was it that place where you're like, make sure that you eat everything because they'll charge you otherwise, or something like that?
Yeah, they charge you by the pound that you waste. It's like $11 a pound.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We recently went to a place here in San Antonio called Izumi, and it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know if they charge you by the pound, but they definitely charge you if you don't finish. So that was something I wasn't familiar with before that. But yeah, that place was awesome. But I do remember also on that graveyard tour, I just didn't pack properly at all. I think I brought something that was probably equivalent to like a windbreaker. And I remember it, we're in Chicago, and I get off the bus, and the bus driver's like, "Aren't you cold, man?" And he like feels like the arm of my jacket, and it's like, I mean, so thin. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty cold, man." But like, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess I hadn't toured in the wintertime in so long that I just wasn't prepared. I didn't bring anything. So I do remember one of the next days off, I go to the mall, and there's like a J.C. Penney there, and I see all these jackets there, and I'm just trying so hard to buy some gloves and a jacket, and I don't think I was successful because I went like, I don't know, 20 minutes before they closed, and I didn't get to pick anything out, so I had to suffer all the way through that tour.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's I'm in Ohio. It's chilly, but I rock shorts and a t-shirt all year long.
Oh, tough guy over here.
I don't even wear a coat half the time.
Yeah, I did end up coming home, and uh, I went on J.C. Penney's website, and I ordered some jackets for like, it was like 20 or $30, and I got like two pairs of gloves, and I still got them, and I pack them. But it's funny that now that I have them, I seem to never use them. But I definitely pack them whenever I go on tour just in case.
Yeah, I can imagine those weather changes are difficult.
Yeah. But yeah, things are slow. They'll start to pick up in March, of course, just like they always do. But the last tour I did was Static X tour, co-headliner with Seven Dust. I've been home since November 2nd, so it's already been a couple of months now. But that was a great tour. I went and filled in for maybe 2.5 weeks, and just got absolutely crushed on that tour, selling merch for Static X. But yeah, and then I just the only thing I've done since then is I sold merch for Breaking Benjamin, which I'm not too fond of selling merch anymore, but they're on that acoustic tour right now, and they needed somebody to sell merch. They don't have a merch person right now on the tour, but in every city they're hiring a local, and figured they were coming through San Antonio. They figured it might as well be me, but that was about the
Wouldn't it
last
be
thing I did.
wouldn't it just be easier if they brought a merch seller with them instead of having to find somebody every single day?
It would, and on a, especially when you're dealing with thousands of dollars, literally, and you know, money of those amounts, you would think, and it would make sense to at least have one road person, and then you hire a local, because we had three people actually. It was only supposed to be two, but we had three. But yeah, I mean, they just went really, really bare bones on this tour. It's the band plus four crew. They got a tour manager, Terry, who's a merch VIP coordinator, and then they had Cowboy, who's handling all of backline. So he normally does stage left guitar teching for two guys. He's basically teching for the entire band, including Sean Foist, who plays drums. So he's covering five people, and then they've got a guy who's doing sound, and I guess that's it. Yeah, just four people. But the tour just recently ended. But yeah, it would make more sense. And actually, the first time I worked with them, that's what I was doing, was selling merch for them on an acoustic tour. But we had way more crew.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, so it's basically the same tour all over again, even with Keith Wallen opening up. But I mean, they yeah, no merch person. So I know I go in there to sell merch, and I open these boxes, and it's just a mess, man. The people before, Terry was telling me that they just weren't the best people. And that's what kind of sucks, is every time you're doing a show with somebody else's hands in there before, you're dealing with cleaning up someone else's mess, and you're trying to find all the sizes and the designs, and it's just a mess. But I got through it, and It was a little painful, but I needed to make some money, and I'm glad I got to see everybody in Breaking Ben. It had been a few months, so it was good to see them.
It's been what, like two years or so that you've had that gig?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now. I mean, I've probably done roughly 5 tours with them or so. The next tour I'll be doing is actually this will start in the middle of March. Breaking Benjamin with Daughtry supporting, and I can't remember who the opener is, but I know Logan says he's a big Chris Daughtry fan.
Hey, I am, man. That first record is I still listen to it, man. It's fucking good.
I don't know if I know any Daughtry songs, but I mean, I could say the same thing for a lot of bands I've toured with. I just I don't know. Maybe I've heard them and don't realize them, but yeah, it'll be with Daughtry direct support, and then there'll be an opener as well. It's just I really just can't remember who it is, but right after that, sometime in May, I know Breaking Benjamin's doing Welcome to Rockville as well, and that's quite a lineup, which you can see here. It's your favorite Motley Crue on Thursday.
Yeah, it always blows me away when these festivals go the more classic route, especially the way that they're geared now. I mean, you see Jelly Roll on there and stuff like that, and then Motley Crue, and yeah, I'm a little surprised, but that band somehow has always managed to be trendy for whatever reason, and I really do love that band, but yeah, I don't know how, but they always find a way to be at the top of everything.
Yeah, I don't know how these festivals even put these lineups together. I don't know how they even manage to have enough bands to do this every year without so many repeats. I mean, the last time I think Breaking Ben did a Welcome to Rockville was 2022, and it's like you can only skip a year, and then you kind of got to bring those bands back. If not, there's just not that many, in my opinion, to keep these festivals going.
Well, and the other thing, that I find to be interesting is, you see Mr. Bungle on here, you see Primus, and great bands, but very outside the wheelhouse of even Motley Crue, and certainly, Foo Fighters, Falling in Reverse, Greta Van Fleet, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, generally, I would say that fans of bands like that are not into, whoever I just said, and Limp Bizkit and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that they do decide to include these bands, because I would imagine that I haven't been to a festival in so long. I hate festivals now, but I'm too old. I can't handle it. But yeah, I would imagine, I mean, how many people going to see Falling in Reverse have ever even heard of Mr. Bungle or Primus for that matter?
Yeah, that's true. And maybe some of that is, for the sake of mixing things up, but also, like I was saying, maybe there's just not enough people that kind of got to go outside the box a little bit. But Co Wetzel's there on Friday, right on the same day as Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll has been quite the crossover artist for, I guess, quite some time now. It seems like almost every tour he does is somewhat of a rock tour or a country rock tour. But Co Wetzel is somebody who I feel like I kind of have to ask people if they know who Co Wetzel is, just because I feel like it's so focused on Texas. Although he does tour the U.S., he's nowhere near as big as Jelly Roll. But I'd be interested to see how people react to him, because I think he's a little more country than Jelly Roll, even though I really don't know what Jelly Roll sounds like.
Excuse me. Well, I would say a few years ago, we were working on a Puddle of Mud tour in Canada. And at one point, we had discussed possibly doing a co-headliner with Puddle of Mud and Co Wetzel, which it's like, wow, that's interesting. But I think it would have done really well. But at this point in time, I mean, there's not a chance that Co Wetzel would do a co-headliner with Puddle of Mud anywhere in the world, because he has grown. He's grown quite a bit. Not like Jelly Roll. I mean, I remember 7-8 years ago, back in the promoter days, which is how I met you, of course. Which I'm sure we'll get into that. But uh, around that same time I met you, this was maybe 8 years ago. I got hit up to have Jelly Roll at it was like a 500 cap room, and
Yeah.
now he's doing 15-20,000 seat venues.
Yeah, I don't know how people's careers change so fast, but it just happens. Co Wetzel, as you know, Rob, what we call him, Rob Dog from Shattered Sun, you know, who played drums for Shattered Sun. He's working for Co Wetzel now. And when I went to the first time I worked for Co Wetzel was probably 3 years ago or so, and he was playing to maybe 3 to 4 thousand people, and it was like an outdoor venue, and it's just it wasn't. I mean, it was a lot of people, but it just wasn't. Nothing like he's become now. He's playing arenas. He just did the Frost Bank Center, which used to be the AT&T Center here, and it was, I mean, that's a full blown arena, and he's headlining that thing. So he's just come really far in a short amount of time. But yeah, Rob's got a good gig there, and Brian Watt, who does merchandise. I mean, he started out with Shattered Sun, and he's working for them as well. So they've grown with him, and I'm glad that it's going well for all of them. They're really at the peak of his career, I would say.
I'm excited to see footage of Kerry King's new band. I mean, to me, out of this entire lineup, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I mean, that's probably the highlight. You know, most of these bands, like we said, I mean, they're on these festivals every year, every other year. Obviously, this is the first show for Kerry King, so to me, that's probably the most exciting thing about this.
Yeah, that
Although
is
you won't
true.
be there, guys, huh?
I won't be there that day, but I mean, you're right. That is a probably one of the biggest deals of this show in general is Kerry King. I don't think he's done anything since Slayer. He also does have a cool logo, as we've talked about, but yeah,
Other than the font.
yeah, but that K thing with the inverted cross is pretty cool. But yeah, he's already. I mean, it is a smaller stage, but he is headlining one of the stages there, which I mean, I'm sure he can handle, especially if it's on the level of something like In Flames, which is doing the next day. But I mean, I am excited. I don't know, you know, the way things happened in the past. I don't know if I'll be at this show. I mean, I hoping I am, but sometimes, you know, if it's just a couple of festivals, they'll just ship merchandise in, and I don't really have to be there. But I would be excited to be there because Slipknot's playing right after Breaking Benjamin, and that's got to be one of my all-time favorite bands. I mean, it's almost to the point where I don't even I don't want to be there because I don't know. I mean, my anxiety is going to get the best of me just because I don't know. It's exciting, but there's going to be a lot going on. But yeah, it would be cool to see Slipknot right after Breaking Benjamin if I end up at that festival.
Yeah, I haven't seen Slipknot in so long. The last time I was at one of their shows, it was the Slipknot, Marilyn Manson of Mice and Mentor, and we went to Pittsburgh for it. And about 4 or 5 songs into Manson's set, it started storming real bad, and so the show got canceled. So it's really been probably a decade or so. I think last time I saw them, they were doing it was on the Gray chapter.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah, I think
while.
that. Yeah. I saw them twice on that tour. Um, but yeah, I'd like to see them again. But I'm curious to see what happens. Obviously, a lot of Slipknot drama with Jay Weinberg, and then now, you know, Corey Taylor having the having some issues and canceling a bunch of his headline stuff. So I'm curious to see what happens, and maybe we'll see how long after the show if they do play it. We'll see how long until people have identified the new drummer just by the way that he moves his hands or something. They're gonna be like, oh, that's so and so, hands down.
Yeah, I know, and that's a good point too. Is there's a lot been happening with Slipknot in the last I don't know 3 or 4 months or so, and it just seems like it's nothing but drama. They've got a lot of holes to fill, and just there's just things going on where people don't know what's going to happen. There's obviously a drummer missing. I mean, like you said, Corey Taylor just canceled his tour, so I just feel like there's a lot of fans waiting on answers. And it's Slipknot. I'm sure they've got everything figured out, but I mean they've got I don't know 2 3 months before they got to start announcing stuff, or maybe not announcing stuff, and just go out there and put a new drummer and just go for it. I mean that's kind of I guess in Slipknot fashion they kind of just don't really care and just are gonna do what they do, and I'm pretty sure we'll just see a drummer up there with no announcement, and people will have to figure it out like they always do.
Yeah, it always seems like something gets leaked though, because who was it? I forget now, but there was somebody in the band posted a picture on Instagram, and in the background was like a clothing rack,
Right.
and so they saw people started seeing. I don't know if it was FAF or whatever, but they saw like a name tag on the clothing rack.
Think it was for, I want to say his name's Zach. It was the guy who took over for Craig Jones. But
Oh, that,
apparently, yeah, I mean, apparently they say that that's not true, but it's almost like, how is it not true? I mean, because, like you
exact.
said, yeah, you see his hanger there, and it's got the letters, and apparently, he messed that up. I don't know. Maybe he got in trouble, and they're trying to downplay it somehow. But yeah, I mean, that was the last thing that leaked. See, there's always some kind of leak at some point. But looking at Sonic Temple, which is the festival that we're doing, I guess a couple of days following that, it's very much the same lineup, more or less. The
Well, wait,
bands are there.
let me pause you real quick. Going back to Rockville real quick. Your former employer Theory is also on the same day as Breaking Ben. You gonna hang out with those guys?
Right. Yeah, I will probably see them in Crossing at some point. Always been good friends with them, even though I've only worked for them a couple of tours. But yeah, they're on this Sonic Temple as well, just not on the same day. So welcome to Rockville will definitely be the time to see them. I did merch, and I was kind of like a, what would you call it, like a TM assistant or a production assistant for them a couple of years ago. But they've since had somebody else come back and fill that role, somebody that had been with them before. And at the same time, I was kind of already looking to move on from that anyway. I don't know, just the whole merchandising thing is something that I've been doing for a long time, and then the whole, I am looking to to get away from it. But for as of right now, that's kind of just where all the gigs are coming from. But also being you know, uh, an assistant, production assistant, whatever you want to call it. I mean, your days are extremely busy, and it's just very nonstop. I mean, I felt like there was just always something to do, and kind of just like that guy I told you about a couple of days ago, where I left him in the lobby for
Yeah,
two for, for
yeah.
two for 2 hours,
Like,
man. It's like, yeah, I'll be right back, man. Let me go figure out, get you that photo pass. 2 hours passes by, man. Then management's calling me. Is there a guy there trying to get into the show? Oh, damn, you're right. Let me go see where he's at. Oh, he already left, man. Just
what a bag you are.
yeah, way too much going on in a day. But as you see here, Breaking Benjamin, Stained, and Pantera of all bands on the same day we're playing. I don't even know how I feel about that. I don't even know if I'd watch. I mean, my opinion on that is an unpopular opinion, I guess you could say, which is weird because you would think it would be. Say it again.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I know, and it's just I think we both agree, and it's just weird that you would think the majority would agree with us, and they just don't. It's like everyone's just like, yeah, Pantera's back. Let's just celebrate. It's like I don't know where that came from. That's the last thing I thought. So even if I got called for a tour or something, I don't know what I'd say if they were like, "Hey, you want to do merch for Pantera?" I'd feel obligated to say yes, just because I mean that's such a big career move. But I don't agree with what they're doing. I mean, and not that anybody cares what I think, but it would just be. I just think it's weird, man. And I've had this conversation with many people, and I don't know. I try not to get into it too much and let people enjoy it for what it is, but it's just not something that's for me.
No, I agree, and I mean, more power to them if that's what they want to do. But I remember it was on Slayer's final tour, the last leg of the final tour. I went to a show. I think it was like the show I went to was like 2 weeks before the actual end, so it was like one of their last 10 shows. And Phil Anselmo was on that tour doing. It was him and the Illegals or whatever doing a whole Pantera set, and I think that was I want to say that was like right after Vinny had died. And obviously I was too young to see Pantera. It's interesting to hear those songs live from Phil, but I just, even then, I'm like, man, I just don't think he would be doing this if Vinny was still alive. And then then of course this whole Pantera thing happens, and I mean, the Zach Wild speculation, I mean, that's been going on for like 15 years. So, it makes sense to have him fill that role and, Charlie from Anthrax and all that. But yeah, I don't know, man. It does feel a little cash grabby to me. And, I'm not into that. But on the flip side, I will say I was initially really opposed to the Static X reunion. And I still think it's a little strange, but it has grown on me. I thought their new record that came out last Friday, I think it was, I thought it was decent. It was good. And I think that's the final recordings of Wayne that exist. But so that grew on me a little bit. But this Pantera thing, I mean, it's been what, about a year now, and I'm still just as sour about it now as I was then. So I don't see my take on that changing.
Yeah, I agree. The Static X thing, I obviously worked for them and worked for them with no issue whatsoever. I didn't even really think twice about it. But I guess that's been so many years now, though, that, I mean, I think the first time they toured was 2019. So I think we both originally thought, well, that's kind of weird. They have Wayne, somewhat of a zombified Wayne, as some people might call it, on another guy. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I got over it. I guess I kind of heard what they had to say about it, and I guess I kind of understood it. And now working for them, I'm personally behind it now, and I got to hear it from a lot of the band. And it's the thing is that it's just different circumstances. For Pantera, you clearly hear Vinnie Paul on Behind the Music saying, without I don't know if it's on Behind the Music. It might be an interview that he did, maybe with a Loudwire or something, where they're asking him about a reunion with Zach. And he's just like, no, I mean, there's just, there's no Dimebag, there's no Pantera.
You've once again stated that a Pantera reunion is completely out of the question. Why do you think people don't get tired of talking about it?
People are selfish, man. They want what they want. They don't care what you want, And it's unfortunate that people go, oh, wow, man, they could get Zach Wild to jump up there on stage and it's Pantera again. No, it's not. Yeah. It's not that simple. If Eddie Van Halen wants to get shot in the head 4 times next week, and would everybody be going, hey, man, Zach, go play for Van Halen. Just call it Van Halen. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's really selfish for people to think that, and it's stupid. They call it a reunion for a reason. It's called bringing the original members back to what it was, So there's a lot of these things that they call reunions that aren't really reunions. They got one dude from the band floating around in them, I mean, that's not a true reunion. With Pantera, it'll never be possible,
Did everybody just forget about that or just completely disregard it? Because at this point, I mean, the entire, estate, everybody's behind it. Rita's behind it. Guy Sykes, who tour managed them for many years, is behind it. And it's like, I don't know what to think about it. But like I said, who cares what I have to think? It's just interesting that you would think it would be the opposite, where most people wouldn't be supporting it, but those shows are doing great. But yeah, they're on tour again soon, I think, with Lamb of God, which, Lamb of God plays they're direct support for every arena band, aren't they?
Well, one more note on Pantera. I feel like if there was no Dimebag, if it was somebody else and him and whoever it would be and Vinny weren't brothers, maybe this would have happened when Vinny was alive. But the fact that Dime is his brother, I mean, yeah, there was no way that this was ever going to happen. And I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, you knew that guy was not going to go play Pantera tunes without his brother. And same with Hell Yeah. They eventually did end up playing in Columbus, where Dime was murdered back in, what was that, 04. So I guess this will be the 20th anniversary, I believe. But, I mean, that only happened in like 2016 or something like that. You know what I mean? If it took him that long for a band that was totally unrelated to his brother to even play in the same city, I mean, there's no way that he was going to play those songs without his brother.
Right. It's just, it's like as soon as, Vinny's gone, well, maybe not as soon, but still, I mean, it took some time to put everything together, but I mean, he's gone and it's like, yeah, let's just move forward, keep this train rolling, and let's just do what we intended to do this whole time. So it's hard to see anything any other way, but that's just what I believe. And I'm surprised that more people don't agree with it. But we'll see what happens whenever that show comes, if I'm even there. But yeah, that'll be an interesting day. We've got Slipknot on there as well the following day. Like I said, most of these bands are the same, but they're all mixed up. Disturbed as well, Mudvayne Theory on different days. But I'd be excited to get to do some of these festivals. It's just always insane to see the amount of merch that they have. I mean, it's ridiculous whenever you go to these festivals and you got to wait in this line that's ridiculously long, and the merch is like got to be like 6 or 7 20-foot wide tents or something like that, maybe 10-foot wide tents. But it's just like, how is somebody supposed to shop these designs? It's like, you got corn merch? Oh yeah, it's down there on the other end. Let me go. I mean, people are going down there grabbing designs and bringing them back, and I can only imagine how painful it is to shop merch at a festival like that.
What's amazing to me is, this is Sonic Temple that we're talking about in Columbus, which is, I live in Ohio, and this really evolved out of Rock on the Range, which I believe was the first. It was the first rock festival out of all of these. Danny Wimmerfest, which is Aftershock, Louder Than Life, Rockville, all that stuff. I believe Rock on the Range was first. And I remember, I think it started in like 07. And the first year, the headliners were like ZZ Top and Puddle of Mud. And it's, and there was like 8 bands a day. It was like 2 days and 8 bands. And now it's just become this massive, massive thing. I mean, it's almost like Europe over here now. There's so many crazy, huge festivals.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. These festivals have gotten huge, and I feel like there's always been, some festivals here, but lately it's kind of just the same that we were talking about cruises. It's like everyone's got a festival or everyone's got a cruise. There's just an abundance of them. I mean, years ago there really weren't that many, but like you said, the ones that were there have grown tremendously. And I mean, a lot of the times when these festivals get announced and people will text me, or they'll be like, hey, did you see the lineup for this? And I'm like, no. And it's just because, I mean, I don't know, I feel like there's so many festivals that I don't pay attention, I guess. Like, it's almost like, I guess I never go to them, but there's so many that I can't keep track of. I can't keep track of what bands at what festival, whether it's in the US or Europe or wherever. A festival, it's like, oh, it's just another festival. But that's just me. I just can't seem to grasp, like, I don't know. I guess I never plan on going. So it's like, if I'm working it, is the only way I'm going to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that there is so many, and really they're all basically these same lineups. I think with Sonic Temple, to me, the most notable headliner is the Misfits, which is crazy that they sometimes it does shock me when they get bands like that who clearly have zero issues selling out massive venues on their own. It's crazy that they can even get them to commit to that. But yeah, I mean, other than, the odd one out here or there, it's really just the same lineup over and over. And I remember last fall, they did Golden Voice, who does Coachella, did Power Trip. And it was, interesting because it was 3 days long, but there was only 2 bands a day. And, it was massive, Metallica, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Tool, Iron Maiden, and Judas Priest replacing Ozzy. And in theory, it's like, wow, this is a great lineup, and it's cool to see them all together. But then you look at like that same weekend, there was Aftershock in Sacramento, and outside of AC/DC, all the other bands were at Aftershock. So it kind of takes away from the excitement. I mean, yes, they're hours away from each other, but it's just not as cool when a majority of the bands are playing together the weekend before somewhere else.
Right. And that's how it is in Europe. I mean, there's what they call the festival circuit, which I did with Devil Driver in 2018, which that was my first and only time over there, but it was my first experience doing anything like that, and I didn't really understand the festival circuit. We went, and it wasn't really a tour. It's kind of like you're doing festivals with filling in the holes, with shows here and there. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. You look at shows like Alcatraz and then Bloodstock and Motor Culture and all that, in France, and it's like it's the same thing, but it's just for a different audience. So it's kind of cool because sometimes you'll see the same people 3 or 4 festivals in a row, but yeah, it's basically the same thing. There's only so many bands to go around, but
Percent.
yeah, I do think I don't know. I guess they have it really together over there. I really enjoyed the festivals and the way the backstage is, and actually at Bloodstock is when I got this nose piercing because they even have free tattoos and piercings for all the band and crew, and it's like you just walk up and tell him what you want. I remember I even tried to tip the guy, and he was like, "Absolutely not." He was like, "We're well taken care of." So yeah, I don't know
That's
if
awesome.
I don't know if it's I'm guessing they just are given like a large amount of money to take care of these people. But yeah, I mean, I'd say like 5 or 6 of the Devil Driver crew all got, you know, piercings or whatever. So yeah, they really do take care of people, and the way they have it set up is like there's these artist compounds, in which the U.S. has adopted as well. But I think Europe does it better. I want to say. I mean, geez, I remember going back to Welcome to Rockville in 2022. You know, I guess there's only so many ways you can do this, but you know, Breaking Ben is playing on one end of this, what's the equivalent to the length of a football field, if not longer, and catering is on the exact opposite end. And it's like, I remember, I don't know, I remember asking one of the runner guys for a ride, and he made it seem like kind of like, yeah, I'll give you a ride, but this is going to be your last ride because I'm not going to come back this way. And it was kind of just like, damn, I guess I'll walk. And I remember after one of the rides, I think I walked the rest of the way when I needed to go back. But it's like, just to get something, I mean, you're walking across the entire field that they have it out there. It's at the racetrack. I don't remember exactly what it's called, the Daytona Speedway or whatever the hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're walking across this entire field just to get food, and I don't know. I mean, I get it. You know, artists are more of a priority than a crew guy, but damn, it's quite a walk. It's at least a good 10-minute walk, and then it's like, damn, after you just ate, now you got to walk all the way back over there. But I did grab I did spend some good money on a scooter in this last year. So if that does happen, I mean, I'll definitely be scooting my way to catering. Got to get that $1,500 worth that I spent on that scooter.
I remember when all that Blue Ridge drama happened back September, October, whenever that was. I saw a video online of somebody walking from the festival grounds to the catering. And I mean, it was like I think he said a 25-minute walk, 25 minutes. And you had to I think you had to even go on the street. And I mean, it was this crazy fucking long walk. And I mean, obviously that last year is probably the last year for Blue Ridge. But yeah, you would think that when they plan these things, they would maybe try to map it out maybe a little bit better. Obviously, space is a problem, and you know, trying to fit everything in. But some things are certainly not mapped out as best as they could be.
Yeah, I don't remember having any issues like that at any of the festivals. It's like, I don't know, maybe they had multiple catering spots or something, but I don't know. It's like right behind the stage was your bus, your dressing room, catering. It's like you didn't really need to go anywhere. All the interviews were
Yeah,
set up right there. So it's like I don't know what they did differently, but either way, I mean, these festivals are always fun. Last time Breaking Benjamin didn't even get to play, they got rained out. I mean, so did so many other bands.
remember?
Yeah, Megadeth, Ministry. Well, Megadeth didn't even get to show up. Megadeth, Ministry didn't play. Korn didn't play. Breaking Ben. I think Skillet might have been the last band to play. But well, and as you know, the Blue Ridge disaster. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of these festivals shouldn't be happening as often as they do.
No, and honestly, you know, it's a bummer about Blue Ridge because I would say out of all of the rock festivals, I mean, that was certainly probably the newest big one. But I mean, they had crazier lineups than any of the other festivals. It was like almost European, you know, with how great the lineups were. Um, and it's just, I mean, they came right out of the gate swinging, and they get these bands to reunite. And I mean, I know what it is. I mean, they were offering stupid money for bands to to come out and play, but they would do, album sets or reunion sets or exclusive US performances or whatever. And, that was something they were really aggressive about setting up was, something exclusive. And, it was a great lineup, but every single year with Blue Ridge, I think it happened, I don't know, 3-4 years, whatever. I mean, there was a problem. This last time was a huge disaster. The year before, there was all sorts of shuttle issues, I believe it was. Um, so it's a bummer, but these things do take a lot of planning. And from what I heard about Blue Ridge, they hired a crew that that didn't have experience working on events like that. It was the crew had done more like electronic, I think, EDM type of stuff, and it's a totally different world, and things just operate totally differently. So it's a bummer about what happened, but you never know. We'll see if they bring it back.
Yeah, I definitely haven't had any horrible experiences like that. I mean, somewhat just minor inconveniences, but I really hope I don't have to experience anything like that. I mean, it really does sound like a disaster, and plenty of people have expressed their thoughts on that festival, and hopefully it doesn't happen to some of these other ones. I've never been to Blue Ridge, and I mean, I'm sure it would have made it there eventually, but who knows? Like you said, it might be the last year for them. But moving on a little bit about what this podcast is about, anybody who's listening, we just wanted to give an introduction to who we are and why we're doing this, but on why I started this whole thing. But I'm a freelance touring crew member and have been since 2015, and I've worked with all sorts of bands from death metal and black metal to now active rock, so I've seen all sorts of different sides of this genre. And Logan has worked with many bands as well, mainly starting out with, I guess, metal bands, and now is moving on to what, R&B and hip hop at this point.
Yeah. And, on the agent side of things, I don't tour. I just book the tours. But yeah, a lot of R&B, not so much hip hop, maybe a little bit here and there. But yeah, it's totally different world. Just like we were saying about EDM versus rock festivals. I mean, even just doing these tours, it's a very, very different beast than booking a rock or metal tour.
Yeah, but starting out, you were doing, what kind of bands were you doing in the beginning? I know it was a lot of.
Yeah,
I want
well,
to say
when I
what band? What's that band that comes to mind with Shifty?
Shifty Shell Shock from Crazy Town.
Oh, Crazy
Come,
Town, yeah.
yeah, no, well, that was, I mean, that was a few years in. I mean, it really started out booking. The first tour I ever booked was this band called Hammer Fight, and which kind of had like a Motorhead vibe. It was like a co-headliner between Hammer Fight and Product to Hate, which is funny because the tour, we ended up calling the tour the Hammer Out the Hate tour. But anyways, yeah, well, it started out as it was working at Napalm Records. And, they have a European booking division called Napalm Events that they were looking to bring over here, and because they had a lot of label bands that needed to be out on the road, but they were more like development type of acts. They really couldn't get an agent because they didn't have a whole lot going on, but they did. The label wanted them to hit the road, so that's really kind of how it started. Was just some smaller Napalm bands. It's crazy how much things have changed. I remember that first tour, like messaging with one of the promoters and trying to figure out catering, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna make them baked ziti," you know? And it was just like a super like DIY type of thing, and there was no rider, there was no catering, there was nothing. It's like let's find the bands were finding couches to crash on, sleeping in the van, people making them food, whatever. And obviously now as you get bigger and bigger, and you start booking more, I don't want to say real bands, but bands where it's a career for them, and it's a whole thing. It's a totally different world. But yeah, I mean, it started out with Napalm obviously is best known for super underground, A lot of European bands, super heavy stuff. Now it's a little bit more mainstream. I think got Napalm. They got Scott Stapp now on the label. Alter Bridge. I think at one point Smashing Pumpkins, or they almost had Smashing Pumpkins. I can't remember what happened, but now we still have some metal bands, and then it's a lot of hip hop and R&B and stuff, mostly R&B.
Yeah, out of everything you said, I don't know why I just couldn't stop focusing on that big ZD because it reminds me of Tracy Moody in
Oh,
is that
Seattle?
Yeah, in Seattle. Tracy Moody, man, every time we do a tour there and I was tour managing, it's like he would always offer, we'd talk about, what we're going to do for catering and everything, and I mean, he would always try to turn us on to this lasagna. Oh, we can make you guys lasagna for $6 a person or whatever, and I'd be like, man, I think we're gonna do a buyout instead. And he'd just be like, all right. He'd just get all bent out of shape about it. But it's like, the I know we did do the lasagna a couple times, but geez, it's just so weird because it's just like you go, and I mean, this is at a place called Studio 7 in Seattle, which has since been shut down. But you go. I remember when he served the lasagna, it's like you go to the second floor. It's one of those places where you can't drink. The drinking has to be separate from the non-drinking crowd or whatever. So like the drinkers had to be upstairs. But anyway, that's where we would eat the catering right before doors open, and it's like it's ready, and it's like here comes just like two regular ass pans of lasagna that look. I mean, it looks like your mom just made lasagna, and it's just like I don't know. It's just. I guess I was always afraid that like these bands are gonna be turned off by something like that, so I always tried my best to avoid it. But yeah, it was more cost effective. But we would end up going with buyouts instead. It would cost a little bit more. He'd get a little bent out of shape, but I just feel like it was the way to go.
Yeah, I just, I look back on that, and at the time, I think you might have told me the story before, because I used to not even pronounce it right, because my mom would make it growing up, and she would say "big zitty," right? And now when you think about it, it sounds disgusting. You think of like popping a zit or some shit. But, what's that?
Well, I never even heard the word ziti until I don't know. It was just there. Growing up, I didn't know what the hell that was, but yeah, it wasn't until I worked at Costco that I figured out what ziti was or how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's big ziti, but no, it's just it's crazy thinking back on that, and it's like, man, I would never be trying to figure that out. I mean, that's not even really my it's really left up to the tour manager to figure all that stuff out with the hospitality specifics and all that. But I mean, things have changed quite a bit since then. But yes, I did book Crazy Town, Shell Shock, for quite a few years. Actually, that was the last show that I had play out, the last artist I had play out before COVID. The weekend COVID hit, we were doing Hell and Heaven Fest in Mexico. And it was weird. I can't remember the lineup. I want to say it was fucking Manowar headlining one of the days, and I can't remember who, but it's really geared for metal bands, Manowar, and I think Soulfly was on it. Jinjer, who both you and I have plenty of history with that band. There was all sorts of bands like that, and then Crazy Town. And I don't know what it is, man. I mean, they just fucking go ape shit for Crazy Town down there. It's crazy to say, right? Like Crazy Town, who fucking cares? But I don't know. The money over there was the money we got for that show was like, I'm not kidding you, like 4 or 5 times higher than what they could get in their best market here in North America. So we did that. It was cool. But I remember when that happened, it was like the weekend everything started shutting down, and I believe like over half of the bands canceled. Flights were getting canceled. This was like just right after the I think it was maybe a few days after the NBA had announced that they were, I think it was the NBA. Yeah, they were done with the season for the year or whatever. Um, you know, shit got real bad, but the festival did happen, and Crazy Town got bumped to the main stage. I think they ended up being direct support for, I forget who closed that day, but yeah, it was it was interesting working with Crazy Town, and of course, I also booked the tour where there was the whole moose incident, which somehow made it on fucking MSNBC and CNN and Fox News. I mean, every major news site, and because they hit a moose in Canada, and they were pretty banged up. I saw them like 2-3 days after. They kept the tour going. They finished out the tour, and I mean, they're all banged up, looking all fucked up. And supposedly, the police or whatever up there told them that they were super lucky because out of the last 12 or 13 moose related accidents, uh, the Crazy Town accident was the only one with 0 fatalities. Because what happened was they hit the moose, and the moose slid up. They were in a van. It slid up the hood, kicked in the windshield. And what happens is people usually die because they get trampled because the moose is like trying to kick its legs to get out, and so a lot of people die from getting trampled to death.
Oh,
And I
wow.
guess the moose generally, I think they survive. In this case, the moose did not survive, and so it went up, it went into the hood, smashed the windshield. I think it kicked around a little bit, but then it ended up falling. It's a really fucked up story, but the whole thing was like, oh my god, dude! Like I couldn't believe it, man. And I mean, it was like a big story for a day or two, and yeah, I mean, I'm thankful they all survived. I feel bad for the moose, but it was man, what a that crazy story, man.
Yeah, I remember that story circling around and getting a lot of shares and stuff like that. And I didn't really think about the being trampled part, but yeah, that is true. I did almost hit one in a bandwagon once. I was driving for Wednesday 13, and this is Canada, and I don't know, it's like 4 in the morning, and this moose is just walking across the freaking highway, and it's like, damn, if I wouldn't been paying attention, or if I would have been going, I don't know, 10 miles faster, we could have been in the same situation. And I don't know, out there in Canada, who knows what would have happened. But yeah, scary situation, man. But on top of booking, which you go back and forth with, you hate it, you don't hate it, you want to do it. I mean, who knows what your next plan is? But on top of that, you're doing YouTube and have been for quite some time now. Started out with, I guess, recently the Crash Report, and now you're doing the Logan Show, which is, I guess, probably more related closely to what you're doing. But the Crash Report did have some notable guests as well that were related to the music industry.
Yeah, I mean, a majority of the guests on the Crash Report, which wasn't really a music show, like you said, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the world that I come from, and so that's where it was the easiest to pull guests from. So yeah, I mean, we did that during COVID, and it was cool, but it was time to move on, but I took it was like a year and a half break. Once we stopped doing that show, I didn't do anything on YouTube or anything for another year and a half. I didn't start the channel until I believe it was the fall of 22, and yeah, I mean, that's been going real good. It's there's a lot of interviews now, but it's, I mean, the primary focus is, I don't even know what you would say. I mean, just I don't even really know. It's just useless information about bands. I mean, I mean, it's, some biographical type of videos, some discussion based videos, stuff like that. And then lately been doing a ton of interviews. So I started a second channel the other day just to put up all the interviews. Just put up one yesterday with Nigel Glockler, who's the drummer of Saxon. I got one coming out today with Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake, and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Got some other cool guests. coming up, and so I do that, and it's fun. But it's interesting to me, the stuff with just me, where there is no guest, I'm not interviewing somebody, is generally the stuff that does well. And I think there are like we've talked about a million times. There's so many interviews, and a lot of these guys do, press junkets or press tours, whatever you want to call them. So it's like there's this whole. I mean, I remember a couple of months ago, Blabbermouth. I mean, every 5 minutes there's a new article on Don Dokken because the guy did like 1,000 interviews, and it went on for like a month and a half. It's like every single day, Don Dokken said this, Don Dokken said that, and but which is cool, that he's doing all this stuff, but it does make it less appealing for people to watch when these guys will go out and do 25, 30 interviews, and for the most part they're all the same. And so once you've seen one or two, it's like no matter how good your interview is, it's like people have already seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. And now that you are talking about how people are pulling quotes from these things, it makes me wonder too, and this is a little unrelated but related at the same time, how like this random quote will come out from Corey Taylor, and it's like Corey Taylor said this, and it's like, how many interviews is Corey Taylor doing, or when was this quote pulled from? It's just like, I don't know, it just seems like, how is there always some quote from some person to make a story about? But I don't know if these people are saving quotes or just bringing up old news or what, but there's definitely always something to bring up.
Well, what's interesting too, and I really do love Blabbermouth. I mean, out of all the music sites, I mean, hands down, I prefer Blabbermouth over anything. But sometimes it is like, I mean, they're digging a little bit, they're reaching for a story. I mean, I remember I saw a headline yesterday, Biff Byford from Saxon, and the quote was something like, "I don't do vocal warm-ups, I just sing," or something like that. And it's just like, who cares? I mean, why would you
Right.
even write an article about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, slow news day, I guess, is when you start seeing stuff like that, and people will even call it out. They'll they'll go to the comments and put it on Metal Injection or whatever, be like, "Ah, slow news day, huh? Why is this news?" And everyone's got an opinion, but it is true. It's like, why is that even a quote? But they'll make a story out of anything. But yeah,
It's
I
like that
mean,
interview the other day I told you where the host asked the guest, he goes, "How many of the new songs have you rehearsed?"
yeah,
And it's like, why do you even want to know the answer to that question? Who cares?
yeah. What are you
You
gonna do
know?
with that information?
Right, exactly.
get
So
get the answer and move on. But yeah, I
I
mean,
will be doing interviews, and I'm sure if there's guests on here, you'll come to figure this out. I mean, sometimes you got to put yourself through some real pain. So there's some interviewers out there that are great, and then there's some out there that are like, whoa. And it's punishing. It is punishing to sit through. I got to be honest, it's punishing.
that's what I'm kind of worried about. And yeah, you have way more experience with this than I do. Um, and that, which brings me to how and why this whole thing got started. I mean, the original idea um, came from a guy named Rob Beltran, who produced Shattered Sun's album and has been a longtime friend of mine. But he was the one that originally was like, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel and put this stuff on YouTube just in a random conversation?" And it's what sparked the idea. But I guess it was really you and seeing you do, I don't know how many things since I even had the idea, that would kind of push me through to it. But I mean, granted, I had this idea years ago, like I said, 2018, to do a YouTube channel, and it was a somewhat of an original idea at the time. And ever since then, I mean, there's been plenty of people who have done YouTube stuff now for touring related content. And then on top of that, the podcast thing came around, and I was like, yeah, I guess maybe we should do a podcast. And then, of course, COVID happened. And then I don't even know if I'm supposed to be saying COVID. Everyone calls it the C word, but whatever. But, that
I've
time, say it again.
I've never had an issue.
Okay, yeah. So that comes around, and then like, as you know, I mean, everybody had a podcast, and it's like some of them stuck around, Some of them didn't. Some people was like, well, I'm just bored. I'm going to do this. But it was kind of like, man, I mean, everything's just kind of, I don't know, just happened so fast. I mean, it's been what, like 6 years now, and we're getting the first episode done of a podcast that was supposed to be at least 4 years ago. You know, it was definitely before COVID happened that, I had this idea, but I don't know, just couldn't get it together. But here we are now, and I was like, if it's gonna happen, it's got to happen now, or I just got to give up because it's just been too many things holding me back. Whether it be where I didn't have the place to record it, I didn't have the money to buy this or that. I kind of always had some excuse, but here we are recording the first episode of the podcast at least, but there's still plenty more to come on the YouTube channel. But yeah, it's really you who has been heavily into YouTube for years now. Like I said, I've seen you do the Crash Report and then switch to the Logan Show and done everything in between. And it's like, I mean, I couldn't even get one episode out of anything, and you've done I don't know how many different things at this point.
Well, what's interesting is that Steven and I just talked on the phone as recently as last night, and there was no talk of really anything. And then all of a sudden this morning, it's, hey, you want to do an episode today? And I'm like, fuck me, man. Let's go. Let's fucking do this shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think I just had, I felt, I mean, everybody knows I'm a night owl, and I stay up till ridiculous hours. Like 5 in the morning is like the absolute earliest I'll stay up. But every now and then it'll catch up with me, and I'll end up crashing out at a decent hour. So last night I laid down and fell asleep like 11 o'clock, woke up around 4 in the morning, and I had just been up ever since. And I was like, if this is going to happen, I'm just going to keep pushing it off. I got plans this week. I got plans next week. Granted, they're not big plans, but they're still plans. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I just always have an excuse, whether it be my girlfriend's home and I don't want to do it in front of her, or whatever the case may be. So I was like, you know what? I got time today. I've got enough sleep. Well, I thought I had. I mean, I did take a little nap because I was exhausted. But yeah, I was like, I just got to get it done. And I've been listening to a lot of Jasta, and anybody who's listening to this and doesn't know who Jasta is, I mean, Jamey Jasta, that is, he's just one of the main reasons I'm doing this. I mean, the guy's just an inspiration, as lame as that sounds. I don't know. The guy just keeps it going, man. He's one of the original podcasters for anything metal and this whole genre related, and has been doing it for like 7 years now. Has had like over 600 episodes. And then he has a Patreon where you pay an extra $5, anywhere from $5 to $20, and you get an extra like 2 or 3 episodes a week. And it's like, how does this guy's head not explode? He's also he bought Milwaukee Metal Fest, and he talks a lot about the behind the scenes of Milwaukee Metal Fest and how they're trying to get this band and that band and what happened. And the guy really just is keeping it alive. And I've been listening to a lot of him lately, and it just kind of, I don't know, it made me want to do an episode. And I see a lot of other people putting stuff out, and I'm kind of just like, I want to do that. And it's at the same time, it's like, well, why am I not doing that? And it's just really me that's just kind of holding myself back.
Well, believe it or not, Steven was actually not paid to plug Joss's Patreon there. But no, the other thing too, I'll say about Jasta is, I mean, he's got to be like the nicest fucking guy ever. I remember being at Warped Tour a few years ago. I think it was the last time they did Warped Tour as a full thing. And Jasta came up to me. We were both like in the bus parking lot area, and Jasta came up to me because I was talking to Kevin Lyman, who is the guy responsible for Warped Tour, and here comes Jasta. I think he had to say something to Kevin. He looks at me and he's like, "Hey man, I'm Jamey," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I know who the fuck you are." He's just a cool guy, man, and super like unassuming and humble. And I've met him 2 or 3 times, and yeah, he's a great guy. I like his show. I've not heard it in a very long time, but no, he's had some great guests on there, some great stories.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he's still going after 7 years of doing podcasting, and on top of that, like nearly 30 years of being in the music industry. But man, that guy's just, like I said, he just keeps it going, man. He's always just thinking outside the box, thinking of how can we make things better. You know, what are some ideas that no one's done? He's just always pitching ideas to guests that he's got, and he's really the one that makes me want to do this more than anybody. But yeah, it's well worth the $5. And like you said, this was a kind of a free plug for him. He obviously he didn't have any part in doing that, but he really is like one of the guys I listen to the most. But that's kind of you know, like I was saying about what you're supposed to expect from this channel is it's you know, I got a YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. I just recently built a website. It's supposed to be everything, you know, behind the scenes and what it's like to tour. Eventually, you know, I'm hoping to get some tour vlogs going. But yeah, I mean, that website, I mean, took forever to build. But I mean, like I said, it's been a lot of preparation for this, and finally it's coming together. The website is takemeontour.com if you want to see, if you want to check that out and see what I've got going on there. It took weeks to build that thing, but it looks pretty good. And I'm still posting on TikTok and Instagram. YouTube, hoping to get some more stuff out there as well. But it's slowly starting to come together.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen you upload anything on the channel, but hopefully now that this thing's going, there'll be a lot more coming. And I got to say, because I don't know why Steven fucks around. I mean, he's had a video for like years now that is so good that now it would probably be pointless to put it out. But fuck, man, that graveyard video is so good. It was like documentary style. I think you were interviewing the guitar tech or something, and it's a real shame that it never got put out. So hopefully moving forward there'll be constant output on this channel, both channels or whatever.
Yeah, it's like at this point anything I put out is outdated. I mean, I'm just I'm just sitting on so much stuff that like I don't know what to do with. I mean, I've got the video that you're referring to was it was a buddy of mine, Al Function, who works for Clutch, and he was our guitar tech when I was working with Graveyard supporting Opeth. And same thing, I'm sitting there in the bus and I'm like, man, I really want to get this YouTube thing going. And I was like, but I just don't, nobody ever wants to do it. I'm nervous. And he's like, why don't we do it? And then what's funny is like we go do it and he just starts to lock up and he's like, he can't do it. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, this was your idea. I mean, I'm not gonna give you a hard time, but I was like, come on, man. It's like you were like, let's get this thing going, and then he just freaked. I mean, he kind of froze a little bit, and I was just like, I had to kind of talk him through it. And I mean, yeah, granted, if I put that thing out, it's 4 years old at this point. That happened that was the last tour before COVID happened. It was January of 2020, and 2024, we're January 2024, and it's still not out.
Probably February by the time this thing comes out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I have so many ideas in my head, and I can't put them out there. It's like they're in my head. I can envision it, but I sit down and it's like sitting on a pile of just so much good stuff, and you don't know where to start. I mean, I've got drum cam videos of Nick Hughes from Bush. I've got Star Set videos, drum cam videos from them. I've got hours and hours of footage from all sorts of tours, but it's like I don't know what to do with it. Drum
cam video really outdated though. I mean, yeah, maybe the tour was a few years ago, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like the date is relevant to anything.
Right, true. So, I mean, for drum cam videos and stuff like that, I could easily put them out and they would still do all right. But it's just kind of weird when you put out a video and it's like, are they on tour right now? And I don't know. It's just kind of weird in that sense. But more so like the tour footage. Like, let's say, I have hours and hours of Blue October footage from when I was touring with them. And this is 2021. It's like, what's the point of doing a tour vlog, a day-to-day vlog? Which, I mean, I guess I could still do. But it's like, oh, yeah, in this video, we're celebrating Thanksgiving 2021,
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it does get hard it's like, damn, do I want to waste this footage or do I want to use it as reference footage? It's just a lot to, to digest. But I figured in this first episode, we would talk a little bit about, what we do in the industry and why we can be somewhat of a reliable source, as you could say. But, yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I'm a freelance touring. I used to be a tour manager. Now I'm I guess you could say a merch manager. Logan's a booking agent, like he was saying. He books the bands, which is a completely different side of things. He works from home, and I work out on the road. But we'll get into more so how these parts work together. But the first time I met Logan was 2016. I was about a year into touring when I got this gig from Roger, who we both know for different reasons. We both know who Roger is, but yeah, he called me. I was about a year into touring. I had never toured outside of touring with my friends, who would be Shattered Sun, who I started touring with, and where I got the experience from. But he calls me and he's like, "I got this gig for you, man," and I'm just like, "What is it?" And he's like, "It's American Head Charge," and I'm just like, damn, that's like one of my favorite bands ever, but it sounds like a complete shit show. And that was an understatement. It was by far one of the worst tours probably the worst tour I've ever done to this day. And I honestly can't believe I made it through. But Logan was a promoter for the, was it Columbus?
Toledo.
Oh, Toledo. Holy Toledo. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of when I think of Toledo. But yeah, I mean, it was a god-awful run. I actually
It's funny. I don't know what Holy Toledo means.
You don't know what it means?
No, I've never heard. What is that?
It's just like,
Good.
Have you ever heard that?
No.
What?
Holy Toledo?
Maybe it's just a buddy of mine that says it then. It just means like, holy crap. I mean, like, holy Toledo.
Oh, all right. It was like a movie quote or something.
No, maybe it's just a buddy of mine who's an idiot that came up with that. I just always thought it was a thing, but it just means like holy crap. It's like I guess a kid's version of saying holy crap or whatever. But to give people an idea, I mean, this is the vehicle we were touring in. I don't know if you remember seeing this. Does this look familiar?
Of course it does. Jesus Christ.
For anybody watching on YouTube, we're looking at a Paracorp Shuttle, which is basically it's
Like
a shuttle.
Bus or something.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a mini bus. I think it's like a hospital something, but I mean, it's a short bus. I mean, it looks like it has like a wheelchair access thing on the back. Very what?
It's very fitting for you that it's a short bus.
Oh my god! I mean, very fitting for the tour, more so. But yeah. I mean, and then if you look, this is this next photo is the inside. There,
oh my god!
Yeah, this is the. I don't know if you've ever seen these photos, but this spot right here on the right, if you're looking at this photo, the right side next to that right window, that's furthest passenger side. That's where I slept. On those two,
your pillow.
What was that?
The window was your pillow.
Yeah, dude. I would bundle my jacket up and put it against this window, and just my head would rattle a little bit less if I had the jacket.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So this is the inside. I mean, those two seats on the right, far right, were mine. Right in front of me, facing the opposite direction, was Ted. To the left of me was Karma, and who played guitar, and I guess the other seats were kind of just random people. And then in the back, there are two bunks, but as you can see, the top one is like insanely high. So I mean, only certain people could go up there.
Oh, dude, but like, my God, if the fucking driver like slammed on the brakes or hit a patch of ice, I mean, you'd fly right off.
Yeah, these are not, for anybody like that can see this. This is not how bunks are set up. This is not an ideal bunk setup. Bunks are not horizontal. You're right. If you hit the brakes, I mean, you're rolling right off, especially if you're asleep. But in a bus, bunks are what would you say, parallel, I guess, to the shape of the bus, and this is just not a thing. But yeah, so this is the rest of the bus. If you weren't lucky enough to be in one of these bunks, or some people would use the floor that's right in front of the bunks there. But yeah, everyone was sleeping, sitting straight up, leaning against a window, or you're laying down across two seats. But this was 6 weeks worth of doing this, and it was it was not easy by any means.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be rough to stay in for that long. That whole tour, though, I mean, you know, I don't know. American Head Charge is a great band, but I know that tour did not perform well, and I believe that was their final tour, right? I don't think it was billed that way, but that was their last tour.
Right. I think they did another tour in Europe some years later with half the members missing, and Chad Hanks, who played bass, has since passed away, probably a couple years after that. So that band, they never really had an exit, but everyone knows they're pretty much done. There's really no chance of them doing any shows. But yeah, Logan was the promoter for that show, and I remember we pull up to the venue. I go inside, and I'm just like I'm trying to call a promoter, and I see this guy walking up. He's like, "Did you just call me?" And I'm like, "Is this the promoter?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess." And then that's the first time I met you, and you may not, you claim to not remember, but I don't. There was something with catering that you tried to like cheat us on catering, and I remember telling you like, I don't. Do you remember this or no? Or I don't. What do you remember from that?
What do I remember from that? I remember that the show was horrible and I lost a bunch of money. But no, I remember there was maybe I remember some sort of catering issue, but I can't imagine that I was trying to pull one over on you. I really not a shiesty guy.
I
But
don't.
at the same time, I was probably it was probably going to be an abysmal loss. I'm sure my dumbass back then was probably way overpaying for the show. Um, and yeah, I mean it was a rough one all around.
Yeah, you probably were overpaying and probably losing money and all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know if you were trying not to give us catering, but I do remember like trying to compromise with you and being like, well, let's just make it easier. Let's just do pizzas. And it was like, I don't know, like 2-3 pizzas for head charge and then 2-3 pizzas for motor grader. And we just called it a day. And then Ted, who was like lactose intolerant or something like that, we had to order him a separate sandwich just to satisfy him. But I remember that being the bulk of it. But I remember also I was not really an LD, but I was doing lights on that tour. And I remember I was like, dude, what's up with this board? You got a house LD or anything? Where are they at? And you were like, I'll see if I can get somebody. And I was like, this guy ain't bringing me nobody. And yeah, eventually you were just like, yeah, there's nobody that can help. I was like, oh, great. I'm just gonna press buttons until something looks cool, and that's kind of what I did. And it was like 17 people there probably,
if that. And I remember the venue. I don't think is there anymore, and it did not last long at all. And it was way too big for that show specifically. It was huge. Um, and if I recall, they had like I don't really know if balcony is the right word, but I mean, it was kind of like a balcony, but more of like a sort of like a walkway. They kind of went around the perimeter of the building too. So I think you could be like up top, but I don't know if you'd really call it a balcony, but it was this big place. And yeah, at the time, I mean, I was way in over my head, and I'm like, there was a fairly sizable Toledo company that was doing a lot of shows, and then they went away. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll try it. And I think that was the only show I did up there. And yeah, I did not. Yeah, it was not a great time. And back in those days, I mean, I think that show, if I recall, it was the day after my 21st birthday. So I was still, I mean, pretty young and being a fucking jackass, jackwagon, as you might say. So yeah, I mean, it was a rough show. Probably shouldn't have happened, but hey, I got to meet you, buddy. So it's all good.
right? And yeah, I don't think there was this. Well, actually, there was one good show on that tour, but it was their hometown show in Minneapolis was, geez, I mean, I don't know, 1,000 people or something there. But I mean, that was the last show of the tour. But every other show we did was, I mean, 10 to 30 people at that. I mean, as you know, there was shows where what's that place in New York? It was Rochester, New York, Rochester Music Hall or whatever. That's the one I told you that I was just like, this
Oh,
is.
Montage Music Hall, I think.
There you go, Montage Music Hall. Yeah, and I was just like, this is the most painful thing I've ever been through. Guys, why don't you just go ahead and let's cut a few songs. Let's make this next one your last one. And it was kind of just like, yeah, you're probably right. Because it was just, you could hear, it was just the most awkward silence in between songs. So not a good tour by any means whatsoever. And I can't believe I made it through. We canceled a few shows. Worst tour I've ever done. And I can't believe I made it through. But you're right. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, wouldn't have met you. And who knows? I don't know. One thing could change the whole trajectory of how things happen. And I've said before, and I really don't know, but I don't know why something stuck out that you decided to call me when random tours would come up, like when that band, was it Slaughter or whatever, or Onslaught, or
I wish it was Slaughter. No, it was Onslaught.
Onslaught. There you go.
Yeah, and the tour didn't end up working out, but so it never happened. And honestly, I don't think they've been here. That was back in 17, 18, something like that. I met you in 16. I remember that. And the Onslaught thing, well, I met you, actually, it was just a couple months after you, as I started doing when I met you, I started doing the agent thing. But yeah, the Onslaught thing was probably 17. And then, I was booking Jinjer. And it was their first ever tour of America, which I mean, that's a whole saga. But yeah, we needed a tour manager for that. And I don't know what it was. I had worked with a lot of tour managers as a promoter, and for the most part, really all except for like one guy. Everybody else was like super fucking cool. There was one guy that was such a fucking prick. But everybody was cool. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I guess I felt a connection to you, Steven.
Right. And maybe I didn't mention this earlier, but you know, for anyone getting it confused, Logan's a booking agent now, but was a promoter at the time. Which a promoter, for anybody that doesn't know, is the person who basically buys the show, puts on, promotes the show, and they put their money up to basically try to make money off the show. But like, that's why we were saying that Logan probably lost his ass, because he probably paid a lot for the show and didn't make anything back in ticket sales. But yeah, I don't know, for some reason, he wasn't a booking agent at the time. But yeah, I don't know why you, like I said, I don't know why you'd call me, but it kind of just led to, like, I mean, really what we're doing today. But yeah, Jinjer was the next thing you called me for that actually did happen. And that's when they were managed by Dez, which they're no longer with. But I remember I don't know how much talking we had done, but you were booking Jinjer at the time, and you called me and they were like, they're looking for a crew guy. And then I was like, you were like, they're managed by Dez. And I mean, I just love Coal Chamber. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm in. I had just finished a tour with Belphegor, I think. And they were, Jinjer was supporting Cradle of Filth. And I remember I had this discussion with Dez, and I was like, well, what positions do you need? And they were like, we need somebody to do like driving, tour managing, LD. I was like, dude, I mean, how many positions do you need covered here? But I mean, I was dumb enough to take on two of them. I mean, I was driving and tour managing a bandwagon. And those of you who don't know, a bandwagon is basically an RV, but it's a company in the U.S. that you can rent if you can't afford a bus and you don't want to be in a van. You can rent a bandwagon and tour like that. It's got 8 bunks or whatever. It's got a driver cab. It's it's this huge RV. So I'm trying.
They have a bigger one too.
They have a bigger one. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they got the one that's like 7 or 8 bunks or whatever, and then I believe they have like a 9 or I think it's like 7 and 9. I think is what they have now.
Yeah, they've had like one that it's like a big bunk and you can convert it into 2 bunks, but I don't know. I haven't driven or been in a bandwagon in a few years now, thankfully. I mean, so many people complain about those things. I don't think they're that bad. I mean, people say you're riding in a box truck, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because I sleep through anything, but I don't think they're that bad. But I mean, I'm driving this bandwagon through the entire country, for some reason thinking that I can tour manage and sleep in my spare time, 20 minutes here or there, an hour here or there, and somehow manage to get to the next city. And it got so bad that I had to call Rob Dog, who we were talking about earlier, who works for Coetzel. I had to call him out to help me drive, and thankfully he came out because we were paying him like $300 a week, maybe not even. It might have been 200. Yeah.
He's also got the best Instagram handle of all time, I think.
What is it? I don't even remember.
It's Rob Dogging it.
Oh, right. Wait, I just realized. Wow, I just realized yeah, I get it now. I've never I've never really thought about that. That is pretty awesome. Is it supposed to be like raw dogging it?
Yeah. You just now got.
Yeah, I had no idea this whole time.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. I'm gonna see him this week, and I'm gonna have to give him some points for that one, even though he's had it for like a few years. But we had a good time once he came out, and he helped me drive, across the country. I mean, everything on that thing was just a pain in the ass. I mean, I remember once we dropped the band off, it was like a 40-hour drive back to Bandwagon, and I mean, we nearly missed our flights, and it was ridiculous. But I mean, this is a tour where you and Cody came out and traveled all your way to New York and Detroit, or I don't remember where else you came from. What was the shows you hit?
Yeah, we did New York, we did Detroit, and we did Joliet, which is like a suburb of Chicago.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you came out. I don't know why. Why did you come out to these shows? Are you just bored and felt like doing something? I mean, obviously it's to meet the band, but most people would kind of just see one show, whichever is close to them.
Yeah, we did New York, Detroit, and Joliet, and yeah, that band, before we got that Cradle of Filth tour, had been attempting to book it, and there was just a real lack of interest, and they didn't really take off. I had heard something about them. A buddy of mine, he died a couple years ago, actually, but he's the one that introduced me to him, and then I ended up picking him up. As like I said at the beginning of the show, working through Napalm, and that's to this day, that's where the band, that's the label the band is still signed to. But anyways, they didn't really blow up until that Pisces video came out, and then the YouTubers started doing reactions, and it just became this whole thing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe a female is doing that. You know what I mean? Like that's where all the excitement came from. But it became pretty clear once that tour started, that it was going to be like a big thing. And I believe, if I recall, on some of the shows, they were outselling Cradle of Filth and merch. And I remember even the one show, Danny Filth, the frontman for Cradle, was sick. I think it was in Baltimore. And he was sick, and so they canceled, but Jinjer still played. And it turned into like a free show or whatever. So I guess people, they already made plans to go to a show or whatever, but still like 400 or 500 people showed up for a band that they had never seen before. And I remember seeing them in Joliet, and it was a sold out show, and seeing 900 people singing their songs. And so once it became clear that it was like, wow, this band is really probably going to turn into something, then it was like, well, yeah, I need to, I do want to go to all these shows, as many as I can, because you don't want to lose the band, you don't want to get fired, which is ultimately what ended up happening. um but yeah, I mean, it's really, to develop that face-to-face relationship with the client, um and to show that you want to be there, and that you're supportive of what they're doing, and it was a great time. Plus, in New York especially, I got to get out and meet some of the Napalm people, and we went to some bar before the show in New York, and it was myself and Cody the alcoholic, and then some of the guys from the label, I should say some of the team from the label, And then I think the publicist was there, and yeah, it was a whole thing, and yeah, it was great. And not to mention there was another agent at the show in New York who was unrelated to both Jinjer and Cradle of Filth. So you can imagine why why that guy was there. So sometimes you also want to go to uh, have some sort of defense, but ultimately I did end up losing that band. Not at that time; it was down the road. They moved on, and now they've since moved on from that guy too. Um, but yeah, it really is remarkable how huge that band has become.
Yeah, and you're right. They did. They were outselling them in merch in a lot of these shows, and that was kind of the start of what that band has just become. I mean, they just recently opened for, or they supported. Yeah, they opened for Disturbed on the tour we did just 6 months ago or so, and they've just become a massive band where they're headlining over bands like Suicide Silence and stuff like that. So that band really is. Uh, a- I mean, they're just massive now, and that was their first tour ever in the U.S. Had never been over here, and now they're a massively known band. And it is a good memory that you have that it was Baltimore where Cradle had to cancel. Danny Filth, his voice was not in good shape, and they still played to a packed house. So yeah, that band's come a long way, and it definitely was a little awkward touring with them, with Disturbed because things didn't really go so well on that tour, and things didn't really end on a great note. But things are fine now, and we talked and we shared some memories about the tour, and I don't hold anything against them. That might be one of the only bands that I've ever worked for that didn't ask me to come back though. So which is interesting to say, but we just didn't get along. We just, I mean, I don't think they understood the demands of what I was trying to do versus what their expectations were, and it just kind of turned into something that it just didn't end well, And I don't. I think we all understand that. I think Dez wanted me back and wanted me to keep working with them, but they just they just it was probably best that we didn't. But everything's all good now.
Yeah, well, I saw them. I saw them live a couple times last year. Once on that Disturbed tour, but then I saw them in person at that Disturbed show as well at the after party, and then hanging out with you and stuff. And I mean, yeah, I didn't go up to him. I didn't talk to him. It's funny because I I don't think they saw that I was at the after party, especially Ramon and Eugene from the band. The guitar player and the bass player were there, and they didn't see me. And I do get a little reserved, and I am kind of shy, so I won't necessarily go up to somebody. If if it was somebody I was like super tight with, maybe, but somebody I'm just kind of acquainted with, I wouldn't go up to. But I saw them there, and then I saw them like a month later. They one of the bands that I book, Monuments from the UK. We went out and supported them um, last fall, about a month after that Disturbed tour wrap. It was a lot of Canada shows and some smaller U.S. markets, and we did like Billings and Spokane and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and shit like that, which is the show that I went to. I remember it was on 9/11 actually, and I saw them just kind of in passing, but yeah, I wanted to thank them for putting Monuments on the tour. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it was cool to be a part of uh of that, when it was first happening, and it was cool to be the first guy that brought them over here. um, and yeah, I mean, they really do owe a lot to Cradle of Filth, because I can tell you, this is years ago now, so it don't matter. But submitted them for a lot of different tours before we got the Cradle tour, and it's tough because it's sort of it's a weird thing with European bands, because when you haven't been over here before, you don't have much of a footprint. You're not going to get much money, and it's as I mean, common sense tells you it's very expensive to tour over here, especially when you got to take into account the fact that you got to get visas, which are not cheap. And, you know, by the time you get the visas and you get the flights, and all that kind of stuff, it quickly, you know, becomes very, very, very expensive. And nobody really has big support budgets, especially in the metal world. And most bands certainly don't want to take a shot on a band that has never been here. They have no hard ticket history. There's no numbers to really go off of. Um, you know, especially because, you know, Spotify numbers and all that kind of shit, it means, you know, it's not everything, you know, and in some cases it might mean a lot, a whole lot of weight, but not in every case. And, you know, that band had never been here. And there was just, I think everybody liked the band, but, you know, there was a lack of interest in bringing them out. You know, and it, luckily it all worked out with Cradle of Filth, and you know, the band, I think, got paid fair money for what it was, and it turned out to be, you know, fair, and yeah, so it all worked out, and it was cool to be a part of that, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that is a cool thing to, like you said, be one of the first or be the first to bring them to the U.S. And that's kind of how I felt too. You know, whenever I was tour managing them, it was like it was cool to say that I was tour managing their first U.S. tour ever. I think we both knew that they were going to be a pretty massive band, and like you said, with all the reaction videos and all that, that's exactly what ended up happening. Yeah, I mean, after that, I mean, I continued to work with more of Dez's bands, which, you know, I did a few tours with Wednesday 13, who, you know, for other reasons too. I mean, I think you, as a promoter, put on a couple of shows, which I think Wednesday might still be a little bitter about one of the shows that you canceled.
Yeah, I think he's a little salty, you know, but I will say, regardless, extremely underrated band. I mean, just extremely underrated. And you know, I mean, obviously he got his start in Murderdolls, not to go off on a whole Wednesday tangent here, but you know, getting his start with Murderdolls, Joey Jordison's you know, side project. And you'd think, I mean, that band was already like underground enough. I mean, it didn't matter that Joey was in Slipknot. That band is, I mean, it's a very niche thing, you know, and it's, I mean, it's a horror themed band, you know, it's really not for that many people. And for him, for Wednesday, to be able to carve out a solo career, you know, and it's still, all of it is still very under the radar. And it's, you know, we're talking what, 300 tickets or whatever, maybe, but just incredibly underrated. And, you know, there's so many people that get compared to Alice Cooper and things like that. And to me, Wednesday 13 is really the guy that carries that torch, and everything that he sings about is real. He's singing about, you know, old horror movies and shit like that, but that's what he's into, and that's him, you know. It's all 100% legit and organic, and goddamn, that guy's just put out some incredible stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Wednesday's show is completely underrated. I think he's completely underrated. I as we've had this discussion before, I do feel like he should have been bigger. I don't know. I think maybe he missed his mark. I don't know what it is, but phenomenal performance, just great ideas. You know, I think he could have been and should have been something to the level of Alice Cooper. You know, he should at least be headlining theaters, and he's got great ideas. And it just sucks, you know, that, you know, he can pack some houses for sure, you know, in these club levels. And that recent tour he did with you know, doing the Murderdolls thing really did really well for him, you know. But I always wished he would be, you know, playing some big stages, supporting Rob Zombie or something. And I don't know, maybe there's still a chance that something like that will happen. But you know, it is unfortunate too with Joey Jordison's passing and everything as well. You know, on that tour we did with them, one of the last ones, I remember we were 15 minutes away from Joey Jordison's house, and I wanted nothing more than to go, you know, hang out with them. But it was a very touchy thing at the time, very sensitive subject, and like they were going to meet him for the first time in I don't know how many years, and it was supposed to be the talks of, you know, possibly doing a reunion. They even shared that photo on socials, and then Joey passes away. I don't know how many years later, but of course the reunion never got to happen. But it sucks because not only did we lose Joey from Slipknot years ago, but then from Murderdolls, and I think I can only imagine Wednesday was completely crushed as well, and obviously he's paying tribute to the whole thing right now.
Well, and people really dug Murderdolls. I mean, I was a little too young when they first came out. I think the first record in the Beyond the Valley of the Murderdolls was 01 or 03 or something like that. And but I actually I remember reading about the band, and I didn't even subscribe, but somehow I had a copy of Revolver. And there was some article in there that Nikki Sixx had written, and he brought him up, and I'm like, wow, Murderdolls, that's a fucking cool band name. And then I went out and bought their second record, Women and Children Last, which to this day is still like top 10 albums for me. I love that album. And yeah, it's so I mean, people were definitely into that band, and it's a shame. And just Monday, that Freaks on Parade 2024 tour got announced with Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper, and nothing. Ministry is obviously a great fit for that. They're on it too, and nothing against Filter, but I mean, fuck, man, fuck Filter. Wednesday 13 all the way, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how. I don't know how. It is baffling how he doesn't end up on. I mean, that is the ideal, perfect tour to have Wednesday 13 open. I mean, Rob Zombie, Alice Cooper, and fucking Ministry, and you decide to stick goddamn Filter on there. I mean, it's cool. I like Filter. It's not even a thing against them, but it's like the tour is called Freaks on Parade. You know what I mean? Put fucking Wednesday 13 on there.
Yeah, Filter don't have any freaks in their band.
No, and well, depending on maybe if you ask a former band member, maybe they do. But no, I mean, same with that the Mudvayne psychotherapy sessions or whatever the fuck
Right.
last year with Coal Chamber. I mean, that would have been another perfect tour for Wednesday, especially if they're concerned about ticket sales or whatever, especially if they could have got him, which I'm sure he would have done a Murderdolls set, and maybe sprinkle in a couple of his solo songs. But yeah, no, anyway, I didn't mean to get on a whole tangent here, but yeah, highly underrated artist.
No, I agree, and we've talked about that many times, and could go on and on about how good of a show he has, and his, not to mention his band members and he himself are, out of all the bands I've worked with, top 3 nicest people I've ever worked with. I do wish Wednesday still gets one of those tours eventually. I don't know how much time he has left, but you're right, those 2 tours that did happen would be absolutely ideal, especially the one coming up with Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper. I mean, you're right. I mean, they should definitely be there instead of Filter. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But those are a couple of the bands that really got things going between you and I. And we joke around about it a lot here and there. But I mean, you've somewhat basically helped guide me through my entire career, more or less. Every time I would get an offer, I'd usually call you and be like, "I got this offer, man. What do you think?" And you'd kind of be like, "You got to do it." I mean, that's like one of the biggest bands out there, or you're not realizing how big of a tour that is. And, like I said, you've been there. I think you've only missed 2 tours that I did before I actually knew you. Granted, I met you on the Head Charge tour. I had only done 2 tours with Shattered Sun before that. And then we didn't really get talking until maybe, like 17 or 18. But still, I mean, the bulk of the career, once things really got going, you've been there at least to tell me what I should and shouldn't do, more or less. Of course, I knew the answers, but I would always double check, you being the agent and knowing numbers and stuff like that. I would always call and see what your opinion was on the tours that I was being offered.
Well, and the Shattered Sun thing is kind of funny because I ended up booking Shattered Sun after I had known you, and I remember talking to you about it. Um, but yeah, so it's just everything sort of ties in together, Um, but yeah, no, it's been cool, man. I mean, doing American Head Charge to now doing fucking Breaking Benjamin and sheds and arenas and stuff like that. It was cool to much like Journey. It was just cool with Journey, much like Jinjer. It was cool to watch your journey of just going from that. I mean, that's that American Head Charge thing was pretty small. I mean, would you say 10 to 30 people, and now it's 10, 15,000 people for the most part. So
Well, yeah, that does bring me, to my next point is that, working for Breaking Benjamin, I'm not even sure I really don't think I'd have this gig if it wouldn't have been for the way things went down. I don't know if you exactly remember, but I was on tour with Blue October for 3 straight months, and you sent me this screenshot like on the second to last day of the tour or something like that, and it was a screenshot of Jerome, who's the tour manager, who you've known for a few years here and there. I don't know, I guess from booking bands and just getting to know him on Facebook. But he had put out a screenshot saying looking for a merch person and to message him, and he didn't say who it was for, but I was just like, damn, I mean, had you not sent that, I might have not been able to get that gig. But yeah, some people ask me, how did you get into arena touring and how did you get that gig? And I'm like, Facebook, believe it or not,
Logan Crossland, that's how I got into it.
Yeah, so I mean, you send me this screenshot, and I'm like, damn. I mean, they're looking for somebody to work to start the tour in like a couple days, and I'm like, man, I just finished a 3-month tour, but this is also an opportunity that I've been waiting for. So, send them my resume, and on the last day of the tour, literally the last day, I get an email from Terry, who works for Breaking Benjamin, and I mean, this is like 10 minutes before doors open, and I would say my jaw really did literally drop because I was just so blown away that I got a response. And we get through the whole thing. I fly home, and I'm in the airport basically hitting up Terry, like saying like, hey, can you get on the phone? Can we get this thing sorted out? And we end up talking on the day that I get home. I land, we have a discussion. He's like, can you fly out tomorrow? So I was literally home for about, I don't know, 16 hours, something like that. Did laundry, and then I went and joined Breaking Benjamin to finish out their acoustic tour that we were talking about earlier for like another 2 weeks, and I've been with them ever since. And we've done about 5 tours so far, and we've got another one coming up. And it's just crazy that, like I've said before, one thing can change the entire trajectory of how things go for you. And had you not sent me that screenshot, I mean, who knows? I might still be doing theater stuff.
Maybe went back to Belphegor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Speaking of Belphegor, yeah, their drummer just hit me up recently. Their old drummer, and he was like, "Can you help out this girl? She wants to work for Toto. She worked for Belphegor and all sorts of stuff. She's in Germany though, but either way, it just makes me realize how, like you said, how far I've come from working for bands like Belphegor, who are a black metal crossover death metal band or whatever you want to call it, to working for active rock bands. It's a completely different world, but yeah, it's a lot has happened in the amount of time that I've known you.
That is the 100% truth. It's been quite a ride.
Yeah, and I know you'll be likely coming to one of the shows, and Logan always wants all access. He always has to say, "Give me all access, Buster."
That's right. Hey, it's like, hey, don't you know who the fuck I am? I'm Logan from the Logan Show. And
Yeah,
now Logan from the Logan Show and Take Me on Tour.
Right, I'll make sure I have a ticket reserved for you in section 307.
The Stevie Wonder section. Come on.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it'll be a good tour with Daughtry supporting. That's what's coming up next. I'm sure that's the next time I'll see you in person, is coming up on one of those shows. But yeah, I mean, I know you've got some stuff coming up with the Logan Show. I know you've got some interviews that you just wrapped up, as well as some other interviews coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, tons of them. Joel Hoekstra, I'm going to put up today. Tomorrow, I think, is Johnny D from Honeymoon Suite, sort of an 80s pop rock, but almost kind of like Loverboy. They were in Lethal Weapon, which is how most people know them. And then let's see, well, I got, next week I've got Brian Tatler, who's really a legend from Diamond Head, and now in Saxon. Of course, everybody remembers the Big Four when they played Am I Evil? That's a Diamond Head song. So he's coming on. Mark Kendall from Great White's coming on, and there's all sorts of stuff always in the works. So got that going on. I'll probably have a new regular video out soon. I've got 2 channels, the Logan Show and Logan Crossland. So check those out. And you can also find me on social media at Real Logan Show.
Yeah, and then for anybody that hasn't seen Logan's stuff, I mean, like he said, it's hard to describe what exactly everything is about, but it's really all music related. He just did a video about Green Day ripping people off, which it's all music related, but it does make for some good content, as they call it these days. But you recently also did a short on talking about Piggy D leaving Rob Zombie and Blasko coming back.
Yeah, I do some shorts and TikToks and reels and all that. And that's where I really do, a lot of the new stuff. And it was sort of surprising to see that. But then on the flip side, seeing Blasko back in the band is about the most unsurprising thing of all time. But I mean, clearly there's obviously quite a few changes being made in Zombies camp with John 5 leaving, whatever that was, a year and a half ago now, to join Motley Crue. And then it sounded like, from the way that Piggy D worded it, sounded like he was maybe let go. So maybe let go in favor of Blasko. Who knows? Obviously, Blasko has been a part of Ozzy's band. I believe he left Zombies band to join Ozzy's band, if I recall. But that's, not really a thing anymore. But he's also, I think it's common knowledge now. He's also an industry guy too. I mean, he manages bands, and I don't know if he still does, but for a long time he managed Black Veil Brides, and then I believe he still manages Black Label Society and Zach Sabbath, which he's also, he's the bass player in Zach Sabbath. But kind of crazy to see Piggy out, but not surprising to see Blasko back in.
Right, and seeing Blasko back in is really exciting for me. I mean, he brought Riggs back after John 5 left, which I did not ever think that was going to happen, because Riggs has been out of the music industry for quite some time now. He did have another band called Scum of the Earth, but I don't think they were very active, and he's just been a tattoo artist for quite some years now.
I got hit up. I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I got hit up. When was this? This was probably coming out of the pandemic, I want to say. I was getting hit up relentlessly by that band for booking. And I didn't do anything with it, but I remember, I don't know if I ever put 2 and 2 together, but I remember hearing it and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is like a bunch of fucking Rob Zombie wannabes. I mean, it sounded just like Rob Zombie,
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever even heard the band, but Rob Zombie had a song called Scum of the Earth, and I'm assuming that's where he got the name from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it did make me, basically the only last member that they haven't gotten back is John Tempesta, which I don't know why Blasko came back. I didn't see that coming. I mean, maybe you did, but I didn't. I just thought he was more of, like you said, an industry guy. He's managing bands. He's not really looking to be in a band anymore. But at this point, you have Rob Zombie, Riggs, and Blasko. That's 3 of the 4 original members from the Rob Zombie lineup, and it just made me think of the time I saw. I'm significantly older than Logan, but I saw Zombie in '99, and it was honestly one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life, and it's one of the best memories I have of going to shows. Whenever I was younger, I had to have been 11 at the time, and some random dude I was front row. by myself. My brother and uncle were somewhere else. I kind of just, I don't know, just made my way to the front, and some random dude took care of me and gave me my first guitar pick ever, which was Blasko's pick that I still have from 1999. But it also did remind me that I think that was, if that wasn't the show, it was another show at the same venue. But I found a wallet on the floor towards the end of the show, whenever, you know, everyone's leaving and you see all stuff all over the place, and I guess someone dropped their wallet and it had $3 in it, and I was like, oh hell yeah. Like, got this wallet, has $3 in it, and I remember we stopped at a gas station afterwards to gas up, and I remember I bought a pack of cupcakes with it.
Why didn't you take the wallet to a lost and found?
Well, I was 10 years old at the time, 11 years old, and I was just like, hell yeah, dude, $3. I didn't have any money, but what's funny is that so I get all the way home. I don't know, my uncle didn't tell me any better, but I get home, and my mom was just like so mad at me and so disappointed in me, and she makes me replace the $3. I don't know where I got $3, but she makes me replace the $3. She worked out of Corpus at the time, which is about an hour from where I'm from, and she takes the wallet back. It had the guy's high school ID, and she took it back to the high school and got the wallet back to him. So yeah, I kind of learned a lesson that day. But I don't know. I mean, I'd never do something like that now. I mean, I would have easily turned it in, but yeah, at the time, I guess I just didn't know any better, and I bought me a pack of Hostess cupcakes instead.
Not much has changed. I'll tell you a quick funny story though. My mom, when she was, I mean, fuck, I don't even know. I mean, a little girl, probably 6, 7 years old. She stole like a candy bar or something from the store, and she went back to that store when she was an adult, and she's like, "I stole a candy bar here like fucking 15 years ago, and I want to pay you for it." So she gave the guy, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know if anything. So that's got to be like the most honest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, I was on tour one time, and I remember it was with Shattered Sun, and we were at a convenience store, and I filled up a 32-ounce fountain drink or whatever, and I didn't mean to, but I put the straw and started drinking it. I think that was the only thing I bought, and I remember just starting talking to the band, and eventually I just walked out with it and didn't think anything of it until we drove away. And I remember thinking like the same thing. I was like, should I call back and try to pay for this drink? And I don't think I did, but I just think it would be too embarrassing to call back. But I remember I just felt so guilty about it. But that's probably the last time I've stolen anything, and it was completely by accident. It was probably, who knows, $1.50 worth of merchandise, and who knows, it probably cost them 15 cents for the foam cup, and that's it.
Oh, of course. And if it was a Polar Pop, those things are like 70 cents.
Right. But yeah, before we go, I just wanted to talk about some tours that are happening now. We are getting into February, and some tours that are happening now or coming up is another leg of the Machine Killer tour with Static X and Seven Dust, of course, Dope as well, and Lines of Loyalty. You see how small they put their name there? I don't even know if you can see that. Lines of Loyalty, it's so small.
I honestly, I can see it. I can probably only read it because you just said the name.
Yeah, and
I don't know if I could make that out.
Yeah, I know it's tiny. I don't know if that was intended to be like that or if this is like an unfinished ad mat. But yeah, I was a part of this tour just a few months ago, and it is one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. Static X really puts on a great show, and for anybody that's thinking about going or even potentially buying a meet and greet, I will say that Zero does have a meet and greet where he does take his mask off now. It's very affordable. I think it's $250, maybe $300. I can't remember, but I was blown away to find out that he takes the mask off and actually reveals who he is.
I wonder who it is.
And then on top of that, Tools here. They're actually in Austin today. We tried to go, but weren't able to get tickets. The photographer who filled in on the Disturbed tour is also their photographer. So Tools on tour right now. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go. Disturbed back at it again with Fall in Reverse this time, and Plush opened up for Breaking Benjamin and Alice in Chains a couple of years ago. But yeah, Disturbed already back at it, and they have one of the craziest shows with the amount of pyro. I mean, when we were touring with them, they were setting off sprinkler systems in these arena tours.
And of course, I go to the one show on the entire tour where they don't use the pyro.
Right. And I remember finding out about that a couple of days before and calling and be like, you might be disappointed, man, but I don't think they're going to have pyro. And I don't know if it's just because the venue's made of wood, but I think that's the reason. But they had absolutely no pyro, and it kind of killed the whole show. But yeah, I mean, Logan kind of missed out on that one. He did do a full review on that as well. That's the show you did a review on, correct?
Yeah, because I'll tell you the best part of that night real quick. Best part of that entire experience was the that venue. The parking is very, very, very far away from the actual venue itself, and we were there till, I mean, Jesus Christ, it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and Steven called for a ride for me and Jamie, my fiance. And we're standing there, and here comes this fucking big black SUV. And I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Perks of the Logan Show. What's up? So, but no, that was, I got to say, it was a great experience. I like Disturbed. I'm not a hardcore fan, but they sounded great. And, it was a good show. It's always good to see Breaking Ben. Nobody on that tour was, am I like, crazy fan of, but all the bands were good, man. It was a good show.
Yeah, we gave you the Papa Giorgio treatment, as some people call it, with that SUV. It was totally decked out. I was expecting a golf cart, but of course the SUV was way better. It looked way more pro. But
I think the driver's a fan.
Yeah, right. Machine Head as well is out right now with Fear Factory, Orbit Culture, who very underrated band. They're on the come up as well. This might be one of their first tours in the U.S. Machine Head's finally playing shows with other bands for I don't know how many years they were doing just an evening with Machine Head. It was like 3 hours of Machine Head or something like that. So I don't know. I guess they got bored.
The last couple tours leading up to this have been like intimate tours. They were doing like clubs.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know what changed. I don't know what the first tour was that they decided to tour with other bands, but I'm glad to see that they're doing that again. And one of the things that Phil Demmel mentioned when he left is that he got so tired of not touring with other bands and how it was just them all the time. He was like, every time we go to a venue, it's like there's nobody to hang out with. He was like, it's just the same band and crew, and I would imagine you do get tired of that after doing so many tours in a row. But I'm glad to see that they brought out Fear Factory, who's direct support, which is a little surprising considering the lineup changes, which now has Pete Weber playing drums. I think he might be permanent. He's the drummer of Havoc. Godsmack going on tour.
Hang on, before you move on, I was a little surprised. I don't know all the venues on that tour, but the venue here in Ohio that Machine Head tour is coming to, I was a little surprised. It's a casino, and this isn't really your typical casino tour. I was sort of surprised to see that going into the MGM.
Yeah, that's true. I've done a few casinos, and they've always been with more active rock bands. I think the first time I ever did casinos was probably with, I guess, Theory of a Dead Man. They did a lot of them, and casino tours or casino shows are just something else, man. People in casinos do not know what the ins and outs are of a tour. There's always some kind of caveat that you got to deal with. Like, they always have the most whack merch set up, the most, like, just staff that doesn't know what's going on. It's just one of those days you just have to get through. So I am surprised that they're doing that as well, because it's definitely more something you'd see Buckcherry at or something.
Yeah, Buckcherry or something like fucking those old school 60s 70s bands that are still around, and yeah, a lot of classic stuff.
Yeah, something like maybe like this Godsmack tour that I was about to talk about next. I mean, that seems like something you'd see in a casino. But yeah, I was surprised to see that they're doing theaters, but I guess it says an intimate evening of music and untold stories. So I guess it's not a typical Godsmack show, because I think they'd probably be doing arenas or sheds if they were doing a tour of their own. So this must be something else.
Yeah, and I they had announced a few dates. Originally, it was just like the first 3 shows that was like the tour of Oklahoma. And then now there's this full tour, and I mean, look, I love Godsmack. Unironically, I love that band, and it's great. And I remember being a kid, I had a DVD where they do an acoustic thing, and it's great. And a lot of people dog that band, but they do a lot of like tribal kind of drumming and stuff, and it works really well. When they bring out the acoustics and the bongos and stuff, because a lot of that shit's already in the songs. That band gets a lot of heat, but I think they're always been a cool band. And going back to Jasta, that I believe, Sully, the singer, Sully Erna, on the show years ago, and just telling a story about touring with Motley Crue and how poorly they were treated on the tour. It's like a legendary story.
That's such a good story. Yeah, I remember that now that you mention it. But yeah, I mean, Godsmack I've never really listened to. I've never had a problem with them either, though. But I mean, I'm honestly having a hard time recognizing some of these people in the band. I know the guitarist there, I think on the right, I think that's him. I mean, they just look so different now.
Yeah, that's him that's Tony on the right with the glasses, and then Robbie, the bass player, on the bottom right, Shannon, the drummer, on the left, and then Sully in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I barely recognize these guys.
Well, it's been 25, 26 years since the first record. I mean, they're basically classic rock at this point.
I know. Yeah, talk about it. Another tour that's not happening soon but did get announced is Alpha Wolf and Amir. I just brought this one up just because it was announced today. But what's interesting is that Amir, I guess they really just fallen a little bit because Alpha Wolf, I don't get it, but Alpha Wolf just opened for a package of 4 with Motionless in White. They were the first of 4, and now they're headlining over Amir. So I guess it just depends on the package that's playing, but I did not expect Alpha Wolf to be over Amir. This isn't really something, I guess, that you're super familiar with. I don't even know what you'd call these genres anymore, but compared to everything that we just showed as far as Disturbed, Tool, Machine Head, Godsmack, I mean, an Alpha Wolf tour, it's a little from a different genre, but I did not expect them to be headlining over Amir.
Well, it's interesting is there's this band there's this band that's touring in the fall, like a prog metal band, and their last tour, I don't know if they're American based or not, but their last tour over here, they were doing at least here in Ohio, they did like a 4 or 5, I think it actually is 400 cap, 4 or 500 cap room, and I don't think it was sold out. I didn't go to the show, but I know a couple people that did. And I think it was well attended, but not sold out. But anyways, they're and they haven't announced this tour yet, but they have a tour in the fall, September, October, and here they're playing the House of Blues, which I think the one in Cleveland is 1,200 cap or something. But to make the jump from 400 cap room, I don't believe it was sold out, to now doing something 3 times that size. And it's just them and one support band. It's only going to be 2 bands. So it's interesting how some of these bands just quickly make these jumps.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, I mean, it can happen in a matter of a couple of years, just like we know with Jinjer.
Yeah, prime example, Jinjer.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you never know. I mean that. It could happen for anybody. I mean, geez, it's like all we've been hearing about is Sleep Token for the last year or so. Before that, it was Spirit Box. Before that, who knows? It was Ghost, probably. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, those 3 bands alone are a prime example of as well of as how things can change. But who did you say you were going to see this weekend?
Extreme in Living Color, and I'm so stoked. It's gonna be the first show that I'm going to in 2024. First show I've seen since I saw Andrew Dice Clay a few months ago. And I can guarantee you that at the end of the year, looking back on all the shows that I'll end up going to this year, Extreme will be easy top 3, if not number 1.
Yeah, I when you told me about it, I didn't even know who Extreme was, and I just find it so weird because we're just on completely different sides of the spectrum when it comes to genres. As you know, from Logan should have been born in the '70s,
I should have been born in the '60s, really, so I could be a full blown adult by the '80s.
right?
But yeah, 28 years old and stuck in fucking 1988.
Right. I'm going to see Shattered Sun this weekend. Coincidentally, it's their first show in I don't know how long because
Probably the last show that I booked for them.
yeah, probably, which was a couple years ago already. I mean, I kind of forgot that you booked them for a little while there, but yeah, it's going to be a bit of a reunion show for them and a couple of other bands on the bill, but it's in Corpus from more or less from where we're all from, but yeah, I haven't seen them in a few years, so it'll be good to catch up with them. But they haven't been very active. I mean, Marcus joined El Nino quite some time ago now. It's been like 4 years, so he's been doing that, and Rob's been teching for Co Wetzel, and I think everyone's just kind of moved on to other things.
Yeah, it's great band, and it's a bummer that it never quite worked out for them. They had some decent opportunities and stuff over the years to be part of some big tours. But hey, for anyone listening too, you can go to Wikipedia and you can find Steven's name listed as the original drummer for Shattered Sun.
Yeah, I am in there. I don't think I've ever even seen it myself. If I have, it was years ago. But yeah, I did start out with that band in high school, and it's insane to think that they're still here this many years later. But yeah, I'll be doing that. I'm glad we finally got this episode out. I'll be going on tour soon in about a couple of months, but we're gonna try to get a few more episodes out until then. And until then, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, YouTube at Take Me on Tour. There's also, like I said, a full-blown website that I designed that you can check out as well at takemeontour.com. Hopefully, eventually, I'll get Twitter going, Threads, Discord, all the damn things that they got going now. And I know you've got a few different handles now, but I think at most places it's Instagram, TikTok, all that. It's Real Logan Show. And then you've got Logan Crossland and Real Logan Show on YouTube.
Yeah, Real Logan Show on I'm on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok, and yeah, the Logan Crossland YouTube channel and the Logan Show. Yeah, you can also get the podcast, the interviews, I should say, on the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all that stuff. And the Spotify, not that there's no reason that you wouldn't go on YouTube, but the Spotify also has the video version as well.
All right. Well, that's all we got for now. Thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.